Diversity means to me that I get to work with everyone.
You know, Levi's is always strive to being authentic. I always wake up every day excited to just be myself.
It's not where you're from, it's where you're at.
But I think the core essence that Levi's brings is they care about the employee.
There's moments in people's lives where you just can't do it all.
I view it as a really significant responsibility, certainly in the role I play, but for all of us as leaders and anybody who works for this company, because it is part of the fabric of who we are.
I wrote about being queer, how I hadn't gone to college. That made me feel really vulnerable at the time, but we're somehow thankfully received really well.
In 1960 in Blackstone, Virginia, segregation is the norm. And the townspeople suggest, let's create a wall down the factory. White operators here, black operators. No.
Bring your whole self to work. And I think people say that a lot. I think that's still really hard for a lot of people.
This is the birth of the modern blue jean or riveted denim pant, and that piece of clothing will revolutionize fashion.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Take us back to Levi Strauss himself and his early years.
Levi Strauss is born and grows up in Butenheim, Bavaria. It's a small town in today's Germany. He is the youngest son in a Jewish family. There are very few opportunities for him. He's got a father who is a traveling peddler, and he dies when Levi's still very young. So he decides that he's going to immigrate to America with his mother and his sisters in search of a better life. Levi comes to New York. He's got two half-brothers that are living in New York, and they have established a dry goods wholesale business. And Levi learns how to create retail partners, what kinds of products people are interested in, and then he hears the siren call of the gold rush on the West Coast. And Levi decides that he's gonna embark on a new adventure. He's gonna head to the West Coast, but not in search of gold. He wants to expand the family's business, but do it under his own name. Levi becomes very successful. Thousands of people who have flooded into San Francisco, into California, into the mining areas. There are plenty of people who need tough workwear. One of Levi's customers is a tailor living in Reno, Nevada. Jacob Davis comes up with a tiny but important innovation. It's a little piece of metal added to the pockets of work pants. By adding that little piece of metal, the pockets are much stronger. So he writes a letter to his fabric supplier, Levi Strauss in San Francisco. He proposes an idea. Would the company like to take out a patent for this unusual riveting process? Levi hasn't manufactured anything up to this point, but he agrees. The company and Jacob Davis are granted a US patent on May 20th, 1873. It's for an improvement in fastening pocket openings. This is the birth of the modern blue jean or riveted denim pant. It will eventually be called the 501. Levi Strauss was not only a successful businessman, but he was also a well-regarded philanthropist. In fact, just a year after arriving in San Francisco, he gives some of his profits to an orphanage called the Orphan Asylum of the city of San Francisco. Eventually, it will become known as Edgewood. In fact, that same institution we still work with today, and it sets a precedent for what the company will do in its future. I think one thing that is important to understand about any business or institution during its history is that they are a product of their time. In the 1870s, there was an economic crisis, and people were out of work. As a result, there was a fierce anti-Chinese sentiment. People blamed Chinese immigrants for taking their jobs. In 1882, the federal government passes the Chinese Exclusion Act. Levi Strauss and Company succumbs to that economic pressure and declares very openly that it has adopted an anti-Chinese labor policy, and on some of its products and advertisements includes a white labor only slogan. Levi and the company would eventually change their viewpoints on that and actually advocate for an end to the Chinese Exclusion Act, but it's a good example of what not to do. Today we're committed to our stance on equality and racial justice. The working men were the first to wear Levi's products. Here in the American West, women are fiercely independent. We have women who are living on ranches and they're doing outdoor work, they're riding on horses, and they need practical, tough pants, just like men. And fortunately, the company recognizes that need. And by the 1930s, Levi Strauss introduces the very first blue jeans made especially for women.
1934 was pretty revolutionary for Levi's to create jeans for women. My role is design director for collections. I've been working with Levi's for the last 15 years this year, and I've been always working on Levi's vintage clothing, which is the historical collection where we reproduce historical products from the 1870s right up until today. Prior to World War I, women's fashion was very much where you were in society. There was a shift where it was the first time women had to kind of step into men's roles. Men were maybe off at war, right? Women were fulfilling some of them roles. They started to wear men's clothes because it was more practical. But it wasn't until many years later that it was like common for a woman to wear pants. And even in 1934, when Levi's produced the first Lady Levi's, that was still quite revolutionary and not the norm at all. La 401 was the first jean Levi's produced for women. It was only lasted for a very short amount of time, which for what would become Lot 701. And Lot 701 would stick around for decades. There was a cinch buckle on the back of the jeans that would have been used to tighten and loosen the waist. There was rivets exposed on the back pockets. It was a very high rise and had a lot of shape to it, very feminine fit. So this is the La 401. This is the reproduction that we just launched last month. So check out the fabric, it's so beautiful. And you can see all this irregularity in it. So I think at the time it was revolutionary, and it wasn't until really like the 50s and 60s where you see it more commonplace. And you see Marilyn Monroe wearing a pair of Levi's in the Misfits in 1961. But also when I look at the advertising, it's really, you know, it's shown in a really kind of positive way that's, you know, aspirational for a woman to dress like that. So I think Levi's quickly seen this as an opportunity bigger than just this novelty.
We're ahead of our time, we're offering this product, and today, of course, women and men alike around the world wear Levi's, wear blue jeans, and feel comfortable in them.
Lift their voice and sing till earth and heaven ring.
In the United States, in the South, the practice is Jim Crow segregation and discrimination. Blacks and whites work separately. They don't go to the same restrooms. They have to sit in different places on the bus or if they're in a restaurant. They opened a factory just after World War II in Vallejo, California. This is an area where during World War II, those who are in the Army and the Navy are black and white, who are living and working separately. But at our factories, we advertise that we hire freely. When you come to work at the Levi's factory, black and white operators, sewing machine operators are working side by side. In 1960 in Blackstone, Virginia. So the company has a plant already set up and running. Young people are asking that people in the South be given the chance to vote whether they're black or white. And Peter Haas, a leader at the company, decides they're going to integrate the factory. The townspeople are not happy. This is the South, after all. Segregation is the norm. The townspeople suggest, let's create a wall down the factory. White operators here, black operators. No, Peter Haas says not acceptable. They then suggest a painted line down the plant. No, again. It's important that we have a factory where the operators can work side by side. The townspeople eventually agree. They want the plant to stay there. So the plant integrates in 1962. 10 years after that, the black and white employees get together in Blackstone and they create a playground very close to the plant where children that live in the community can play.
Thinking about same-sex domestic partner benefits and what that meant at the time for the company offering those. And I would love if you would be able to kind of recreate that moment for us.
When I joined in 1989, I was with my partner Ann, and we had been together for years, and we knew we wanted to get married. I was out, I was gay, and I had proposed to my wife, got married, had my community at Levi's throw me a bridal shower. I mean, these things were just unheard of back in that day. For a company to offer something that was, to me, leading edge and revolutionary for its time, you know, I just had gotten married in 1990. I had no dreams ever for society to accept me as a married woman to another woman, the federal government to ever accept me that way, or for that matter, my company. So for Levi's to come out and say, yes, we're going to offer this thing called domestic partners, it's saying we are treating you as equal to everybody else in the company that's married. And I'm like, wow.
One of the biggest benefits at the time was that I was going to be able to get health insurance. The thing that's always been so wonderful about Levi's is that they are a leader and they did things before other people did them.
Real crisis for San Francisco. The AIDS epidemic is spreading so rapidly that it threatens to overwhelm San Francisco's financial ability to deal with it.
AIDS really did have a color over the city. A lot of people were dying, and there wasn't joy there. There was a lot of sadness and heartache. And here the company was saying, listen, let's honor and appreciate and acknowledge that we have employees that are gay.
AIDS was tough. I mean, I don't know if Catherine showed you, but she still to this day wears a bracelet that I gave her back in those days. Basically, she'll wear it till there's a cure.
And not everybody knew about who had HIV, who had AIDS, I mean, unless you were very close friends with them. So I had a few friends that used the Employee Assistance Program a lot because it's an emotional time. And HIV drugs were very new in that time frame. So once you got labeled as having AIDS, everyone thought you were going to die. I mean, today it's sort of given as like, oh, it's just nothing. Everybody is who they are. Back then it was a big deal.
It was hard, and it was hard to realize that there were no answers. But Levi's was there to support everybody, and when their employees got sick, they were there for them, and it made a lot of difference.
I'd say it is opening your arms to accepting the person that stands in front of you, having compassion for what they've been through in their lives.
It's about listening to other people, recognizing that we don't all have the same beliefs. We don't all have the same life experiences. There is a lot to learn from one another, and I hope that never stops in being a part of our culture.
I've been with Levi's for almost 10 years now. My son was diagnosed with some food allergies that are quite severe and can be life-threatening at times. He's at a very young age, and we've seen a lot of doctors about it, and there is not a cure. It wasn't until my doctor recommended that I think about a medical leave that I even remembered that Levi's had done something like this.
So we'd had a parental leave benefit, as most companies do, for many years. And in early 2020, actually before the pandemic, we decided to expand that to just general paid family leave for anyone who needs to step away to take care of a family member. Any employee who's benefits eligible can take 8 weeks of paid leave away, again, to take care of their family members, and not just, the birth of a baby. But then a few years ago, I'm so proud, we actually expanded it around the globe. I will tell you, we've heard nothing but, the most moving stories from employees who were able to be there for a family member and did not have to choose between their job and being there for their family member. And to me, that is what every company should do, right?
There's moments in people's lives where you just can't do it all. And family is number one.
I'd rather have someone come back, take care of their family and come back and work for us and be able to be present, and then have to make, a different decision and may actually decide to leave or something because they have to make that really impossible choice.
I actually think this experience has probably made me a better employee, which is crazy because it's like the most stressful time of my life. But I think just getting the support from my team, from my manager, from my manager's manager, from leaders, from women that I so respect, I think has just taken my career to the next level, and I think has opened up this space of vulnerability that I hadn't had before. And I think that's important in making connections at work, making work feel meaningful, and making meaningful connections with the people that you work with, which makes coming into the office every day and doing your job more authentic and easy and inspiring.
I think we really do care about people, and we show up with that every day. You can feel it when you walk in our stores around the world and our offices around the world, because we know that we have the deep privilege of carrying this torch for however long we carry it into the next phase, and making this company and all that we stand for in the world even better.
What does diversity, equity, inclusion mean to you, and why is it important? Why does this matter?
Yeah, well, to me it means, treating everybody with respect. If we really want to create equal opportunities, we need to focus on equity, because not everybody has the same start in life, right? It's not where you're from, it's where you're at. I think it's important.
Diversity means to me that I get to work with everyone, no matter who they are, no matter what color they are, what characteristics they are.
Inclusion is important to me because it's like you cancel the effect of tunnel vision. We all have different stories, all have different body types, different beliefs, different interests. Like, people had different tastes in music, people grew up in different parts of the world, so they weren't exposed to the same type of things. So all of those things matters.
To me, it means creating an environment where everyone feels valued for who they are. It means, that we respect their individual contributions and their thoughts for, being who they are.
Having different people around you will inherently create different perspectives, and within that, then you get innovation, you get these new ideas that you wouldn't have had before. And then inclusion, I think, is the most important, because once you do have those people, how do they feel when they are there within the organization? But once they're in the organization, do they actually feel like they're able to be themselves? Do they feel like they can speak up or share their opinion? And if they do not feel like they're being included or being called upon, you're not like fulfilling that promise of, or that commitment of DE&I.
More awareness. It's definitely broadening the range of like talent, giving people an opportunity that you wouldn't expect or even know about. But along with that transparency is building a space where people can be more authentically themselves. Like, I mean, hey, looking at me, and I'll be honest with you, like, I've definitely had moments working here, because I've been here for 8 years, where it's like, wow, I have tattoos, I have dreads, like, I'm like all dressy or whatnot, so I feel like I'm totally non-traditional to like what I was brought up and thought to believe of like how you should show up and come to work. And I think that especially like an atmosphere like Levi's, it really expresses that you can be different and still like be professional, being taken serious.
I'm so proud to work here at LS&Co. for all we do around diversity, equity, inclusion. And it's part of our history and our heritage. If you go way back to Levi Strauss himself, he was an advocate for equality and endowed scholarships for women those many years ago. We were amongst the first to integrate factories long before it was the law. And in more recent times, we've been very vocal and been an advocate in topics that are really relevant to our people and our fans. Things around offering benefits to same-sex marriages and reproductive rights. And the list goes on. For us, it's all about being a vocal advocate to the issues that matter to our employees, to our fans, our customers, and to our communities at large.